they have come near the mountains of the Shalva, the past receded and the future near. Far now behind lay Madra's spacious halls. Madra is the kingdom of Ashokapati. So the poet describes that all the palace and its glory, all those scenes, gardens, halls, palaces, they have all been left behind. Far now behind lay Madra's spacious hall, the white carved pillars, the cool, clean alcove covered areas in gardens, the tinged mosaic of crystal floors, the covered pavilion, the wind-rippled pool and gardens humming with the murmur of bees. All these are past now, forgotten too, or a pale memory. They were just somewhere at the back of memory. The fountain splashed in the wide stone-bound pool. In the pool, surrounded by stone, the constant flash of the fountain, the thoughtful noontide, brooding, solemn calm. It is the poet's way of describing the noon, the sun in the noon, brooding. There is very little activity at that time. It looks as if the whole afternoon is brooding in a solemn calm. Everybody is sleepy, also forgotten. The colonnade dream grey in the quiet eve. Quiet eve in the evening, when everything is becoming quiet, vague because the sun is set. Colonnades, huge halls with columns on both sides. The slow moonrise gliding in front of night. Night is yet to come, but the moon is slowly gliding in the front. All these were familiar scenes in the kingdom which the princess has left behind. Not only nature, but even people left far behind, where now the faces know the happy silken babble of laughter lips. It is in the palace and the people around. When they were full of happy laughter, there was a silken babble, means indistinct but soft, gentle words, and the close, clinging clasp of intimate hands. Those who were intimate with her, when they held her hand, they would clasp her closely, clinging, not willing to let her go, and adoration light in cherished eyes. Those whom she cherished, those people had the light of adoration in their eyes, offered to the one sovereign of their life. She was the lone sovereign of all the company in the palace, and whenever they saw her, they had adoration in their eyes. All that is now gone by, and what is here? Nature's primeval loneliness was here. There is no company, no familiar things. All is primeval, original loneliness. Here only was the voice of birds and trees. There was not the usual humanity. The ascetics exile in the dim-souled, huge, inhuman forest, far from cheerful sound, far from the cheerful sound of humanity. In this inhuman forest, which huge forest, where the ascetics lived in exile, dim-souled, the brightness of the soul was dimmed in this primitive loneliness, inhuman nature of the forest, far from cheerful sound of man's light converse and the crowded days, the cheerful conversation of men and their crowded days, all that sound was far from this inhuman forest in which they have arrived. In a broad east, with one red eye of cloud, that is, they have arrived in the evening, and the sun is setting, and the red sun on the verge of setting looks like a red eye of cloud. At that moment, through a narrow opening in the forests, a green flowered cleft, a passage cut through where there are green flowers. Out of the stare of sky and soil, they came into a mighty home of emerald dust. Emerald is green to signify forest. So it was the dusk of the forest. Outside, beyond the stare of sky and soil, they have arrived. There onward, led by a faint, brooding path. Brooding, because it looks as if even the path is meditating. Which toiled through the shadow of enormous trunks, a huge trunks of trees in the line. Through the shadow of the trunks, the brooding path, it looks as if it is toiling too. And under arches, misers of sunshine. On both sides there are huge trees, and they form an arch. And they close the sun out. The sunshine they don't allow to come inside. They are misers. They want to store the sunshine with them. And under arches, misers of sunshine, they saw the company, the courtiers who have accompanied the princess, saw low thatched roofs of a hermitage where his Satyavan and his parents are living, huddled beneath a patch of azure hue. Azure is the sun, a sky. Below that patch of sky, where there are no trees, the hermitage is huddled in a sunlit clearing that seems the outbreak of a glass smile in the forest monstrous heart. It is so inhuman a forest that so thickly crowded in that monstrous heart, this little clearing of the hermitage looks like a glass smile. A rude refuge of thought and will of man, watched by the crowding giants of the wood. Crowding giants of the wood are the huge trees, crowding upon both sides, and they are watching this little crude refuge, home of human thoughts and dreams. It is something alien to the trees. Arrived in the rough-hewn homestead, indeed, the party has arrived in that homestead, cottage, rough-hewn, roughly built. They gave, questioning no more the strangeness of her fate. Their cried and loud one to the blaze blind feet. The party that has arrived with the princess, they are no more questioning the strangeness of the fate that has befallen. Why such a princess has to be given in this cottage, rude and crude cottage, in the midst of the forest? They no longer question, and they give their pride and loud one. She was their pride. She was the one whom they loved. They gave her to the great blind sea, a regal pillar of fallen mightiness. Though he had fallen, though he had been exiled, he had still retained the stature, the stately mightiness, like a kingly pillar. And his queen, and the stately, careworn woman, once a queen, she was worn down by care. Care for her husband, blinded. Care for the future of her son, who now hoped nothing for herself from life. She didn't care for herself. She didn't hope anything for herself. But all things only hope for her one child. She saw all future for her son. And if she wanted anything, if she hoped for anything, it was for her child. Calling on that single head from partial fate, she feels the fate has been partial. It has been unjust. But even from that partial fate, she is calling on the single head of her child. All joy of earth, all heaven's beatitude. The mother's heart, still knowing that fate is partial, still she is calling. Whatever joy of earth, whatever beatitude of heaven, let it come on his fate. And further she describes how she looks upon her child. For her he is still a child, adoring wisdom and beauty like a young god. She saw him loved by heaven as by herself. She imagines that heaven also is loving her son as she herself loves. She adores his wisdom and beauty as of the wisdom and beauty of a young god. She rejoiced in his brightness and believed in his faith. She is confident that a large faith is there. She is anticipating a great faith, a great destiny for him, and knew not of the evil drawing near. The irony, the pity is that all the while she has been hoping for the best things of life for her son. She imagines that heaven also is partial to her. She is not aware that some evil is drawing near the fated head of a sun. And the other now, the scene shifts to the people who have come with her. Lingering some days upon the forest words. Those people don't want to go back immediately, leaving her there. They are lingering on some excuse or other. Lingering some days upon the forest words border, like men who lengthen out departure's pain, unwilling to separate sorrowful clinging hands. Look at the observation of the poet. He says how people who meet at the time of departure lengthen out the pain of departure. If it is a swift departure, swift parting, the pain is not that intense. But when you linger, when you lengthen out departure's pain, and why do they lengthen out? Unwilling to separate sorrowful, clinging hands. They do not want to part from each other. This is a common situation in our world even now. That at the time of departure there is a sudden rush of affection and you don't want to part, and in the process you prolong the agony of departure. Unwilling to separate sorrowful, clinging hands, unwilling to see for the last time a face, because one is never sure when one parts that one will see the face again, particularly in a situation like this. These courtiers are not going to come to the forest, and wondering, heavy with the sorrow of a coming day. They know that that fellow is going to die, because Narad has talked before them. So, heavy with the sorrow of a coming day, and wondering at the carelessness of fate, which breaks with idle hands of supreme worth. So, knowing what is going to happen, they are wondering why this fate, this destiny does so much, spends so much of energy in creating wonderful supreme works, and a certain fit of carelessness that it breaks with idle hands. In their eyes, the supreme work in the form of Savitri is being broken by idle hands in a careless fit by fate. They are wondering it. They parted from her with pain-fraught, burdened heart. Their hearts were heavy. They were cut by pain, but they had to part, and they parted. Driven by the singularity of her fate, they had not seen such a fate anywhere else. Helpless against the choice of Savitri's heart, they would have liked her to change, but she has stuck to her choice, and like the queen, these courtiers also are helpless. They left her to her rapture and her doom in the tremendous forest savage dark. When they leave her in the forest, they feel as if they have left her in the savage hands of the forest. She may have rapture in the beginning, but the doom is sure to follow. So they are very unhappy. They are very pained. But they have to part. All put behind her. Now, the poet comes to Savitri. One by one, he first dealt with the king, a regal pillar of war, fallen mightiness. And then the careworn woman, once a queen. Then these lingering, like men who lengthen out departure's pain, Now he comes to Savitri, who has been left there at the hermitage, delivered to the mighty royal king, and he said, how does she feel? All put behind her that was once her life. She puts behind her everything that constituted her life in the palace. All welcomed that henceforth was his and hers. Her world is confined to him and herself. And whatever was his and hers, she welcomes now. She puts behind her what was once hers. She abode with Satyavan in the wild wood. Priceless she deemed her joy so close to death. She was aware that the joy she derived from him had death flows on its heels. That is why she cherished that joy, she valued that joy still more. She considered it priceless. Priceless she deemed her joy so close to death. Apart with love, she lived for love alone. She enveloped herself in love, and she did not mind anything else, and lived only for that love. As if self-poised above the march of days, her immobile spirit watched the haste of time. Her soul, her immobile spirit watches from above. Time looks to be hastening towards the doom. Self-poised, not involved, above the march of days, a statue of passion and invincible force. Her spirit was like a statue, immovable, full of intensity and invincible force, an absolutism of sweet, imperious will. Her will had gathered with a certain absoluteness, irrevocability, and imperious, reigning, ruling, and yet sweet. A tranquility and the violence of the gods. Her spirit had this tranquility and violence, the force of the gods, indomitable, unconquerable, and immutable. The poise of that soul, oversoul, was so strong, poised, so firm that it could not be shaken. At first, to her beneath the sapphire heaven, the blue heavens above, below is her cottage, the sylvan solitude was a gorgeous dream. Coming from the crowded palaces and town cities, this sylvan solitude, where nobody would disturb her love with Satyavan, where there were no other call. It was a gorgeous dream. It was a splendid and a rich dream for her. An altar of the summer splendor and fire. It was midsummer, and all the splendor and fire was laid on the altar of her life. A sky-topped, flower-hung palace of the gods. Her hermitage was like a palace of the gods, strung, on the walls of which were all flowers, and whose ceiling was the sky. And all it seems a smile on rapturous lips. Every scene in the forest, every scene around her was like a smile with a rapture, and all its voices barks of happiness. Every cooing of a bird, neighing of a horse, every sound of animal, wind, trees, as if they were all birds of happiness, bringing news of happiness. She was so happy, so lost in her love, that everything contributed to the growth of her happiness. There was a chanting in the casual wind. Once one is in that mood, everything appears different. So he says, even when the wind is casual, she hears a chanting. There was a chanting in the casual wind. There was a glory in the least sunbeam. In the least smallest sunbeam, she feels there is a glory. Night was a chrysoprase on the velvet cloth. Chrysoprase is a stone which emits light in darkness. So, night, it was as if it was that stone emitting light, that is the stars, on a velvet cloth. Everything looked so soft. A nestling darkness or a moonlit beam. A nestling darkness, a darkness in which one could nestle, lay down comfortably, or a moonlit beach, an ocean lit by the moon. Day, if night was that, day was a purple pageant, purple, reddish pageant, a procession, because from morning to evening the day advances. Day was a purple pageant and a hymn to the Creator. A wave of laughter of light from morn to eve. From morning to evening, the day was a procession of laughter, laughter of light. His absence, when Satyavan was absent for work, going to the forest to bring wood for fuel or whatever, his absence was a dream of memory. She would go on dreaming, recalling all that happened, all that will happen. His absence was a dream of memory. That was the only time when she could dream. His presence was the empire of a god. She felt she was present before a god who was ruling. A fusing of joys of earth and heaven. Both earth and heaven yield their joy. A tremulous blaze of nuptial rapture passed. A tremulous and intense blazing of their rapture, marital rapture, passed. A rushing of two spirits to be one. They no longer remain two spirits. They rushed into an identity, into oneness. A rushing of two spirits to be one. A burning of two bodies in one flame. They became so much one that their separateness was only in memory. Open were gates of unforgettable bliss. Two lives were locked within an earthly heaven. Where they were living, it became an earthly heaven, with two lives locked with each other. And fate and grief led from that fiery hour. Hour means not exactly 60 minutes, but that brief period. All